Good evening. This is going to be a video response. The video is titled Question to Genuine Atheists. The specific question is what don't you like about the God of the Bible? For the sake of argument, we're going to grant the premise that the Bible has some truth to it. And in granting that premise, um, I would say that the God of the Bible is either incompetent, evil, or he's both. And I would make the argument because God is presumably to have all power, all knowledge, have knowledge past, present, and future. Yet he creates a world and sets parameters, knowing that his creation will constantly step outside those parameters. We can start with the story of Eve eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, um, and the serpent coming along and simply telling Eve the truth, saying, "You will not surely die," after God saying, "You will surely die after eating from this tree." And from the story, from the book, the story showed that she didn't die, and what actually happens is she gained knowledge. So, in any event, if God didn't want this to happen, He could have simply um, changed the setting and not even allowed the serpent in the garden, and we could have eliminated um, this initial sin altogether. But I'm sure I'm going to get the argument that we have free will, um, and to that point, I would say, what's the point of free will if your free will have you at constant odds with your creator, ultimately landing you in this eternal hellfire or whatever hell's supposed to be? Um, Having free will is pretty much not worth it, and it's an illusion if you truly don't have free will. But I would then go to just a quick overview of the Old Testament, and what I draw from the Old Testament is a very violent being. You know, this God in the Old Testament and commits mass genocide on several occasions to several societies simply for acting on their free will and their human instinct. Again, keeping them at odds with their creator. I would say that even if you believe this, you have to contemplate an evil being, because even if this guy was in some way incompetent in creating a flawed being, um, the only way this God saw fit to correct this flaw was to commit genocide. He couldn't have come up with a more humane way of dealing with dealing with this flaw that he created. And then you can go to the Ten Commandments, and the first few commandments are examples of extreme vanity. God Himself saying that He is a jealous God. And if that doesn't cause you pause, I don't know what will. I mean, jealousy is such a weak emotion. It's almost unfathomable to think that this all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving being is subject to such a weak emotion, you know, an emotion that most humans grow out of, you know, in adolescence and in their adult years. Um, but I digress, but I would ask you to ponder that on your own. Then, as a black man, as you are yourself, we have a certain connection to slavery. Um, and anyone can see that slavery has had a negative effect on an entire race of people. You can go to black communities around the world, more specifically in the southern parts of the United States, and you'll still see remnants of the slave mentality of the people, of the black people in those communities. Yet Leviticus 25 describes in detail the ways in purchasing a slave. So it's, it's nonsense to think that this guy had knowledge that slavery would ultimately harm a whole race of people, yet he didn't say not once in his book that it is wrong to own another human being. In fact, he lays out the guidelines to do so. But lastly, my problem with the God of the Bible is the mission of Jesus. Um, Again, this being um, is hell bent on punishing, yet he gives one way of redemption, and that is blood sacrifice. Throughout the Old Testament, that blood sacrifice involved helpless animals. I think that is such a waste of an animal. Why would you kill an animal, cook it until it's burnt, and then I guess offer it up to a pie in the sky? You could have stopped short of burning it and then fed a few people because they were burning whole animals. That could probably fed a small village. But then Jesus comes and he's to be the human sacrifice, a sacrifice in all sacrifices, and his sacrifice is to forgive the whole world of their sins. Only if you believe that this actually happened without any real proof. I'll come back to that, but let's dig into this supposed sacrifice. Um, a man hangs on a cross for a few hours, goes to hell for a couple days, is resurrected, and is now God's right hand man in the sky. That is not a sacrifice. Um, I've seen more suffering for common good in recent history. Um, and it's no sacrifice to endure some pain for a short while, only to be God's number one homie in the sky. So I don't accept that. But because you don't accept that, then you're condemned to a life or eternity of hell. Um, this again sets up another false choice and pawn it off um, in the name of free will. What real choice do you have if your only options are to believe or die and die forever? That's stupid. That's not that's not a choice, and that's not a sacrifice. So yeah, I don't agree with either of those premises. But ultimately, I don't believe any of this Bible nonsense. I would liken the Bible to, if I say, a bad novel. Um, there's characters in novels that I read that I don't like the character, not in some real sense. Just I didn't like the portrayal of that character. I don't believe that character is a real person. Um, in a bad novel, um, I find fault in the writers, and that's what I do with the Bible. If the Bible's writers wanted um, this character to come off as a more likable person, they should have made this character do more likable things and add less of a prick.